Hello, Brandon Lien here with the very first episode in a series of video tutorials where I'll be sharing with you illustration and design principles and techniques that's been really helpful and useful for me. This first one is going to be a paint over of an illustration by one of my students. Alright, so I'm starting the process by just carving out the figures and putting it on its own layer, so I don't have to keep painting around them when I paint the rocks behind them. And here I'm just adding some more rock formations to the right of the composition to balance it out just a bit, because the original composition was very unbalanced because of too much open space on the right side. Rendering in the form of the rocks, just trying out different brushes here and there. Also note that, in the beginning I'm painting these rocks pretty much, from memory, just making it up as I go along. But as I get further along, I actually do Google up a few rock face images so that I have something to look at when I paint the rock formations, and it's a little more convincing that way. So yeah, polishing in the rock formations here, just doing some slight rendering, but still working in very broad strokes so that I don't noodle too much. Jumping in and carving out there's all the extra paint around the figure and the creature, and really starting to refine their shapes. Here I am thinking about adding some movement to the figure. Everyone is so stiff in a sense, like they're not moving or standing still, so I figure I just add some movement to the cape, make it look like he's walking with a walking stick as well, and just to add some more dynamic movement to the piece itself. Alright, so back to rendering the rocks. Rocks are kind of fun, so I do jump back to that quite a bit. Here, deciding to flesh out the creature a little bit more, adding some rhino-like skin to the tail, working out the movement of this foreground figure. Right. There I just threw in some haze to really push the creature back into space and really pop this foreground figure closer towards us, the viewer. And here I'm just starting to think about that structure in the far background. The original value is a little too dark, so I decided to lighten up the value a bit, made it a little bit more fogged out, just so it feels like it's really far away. Alright, and here I'm just adding in more clouds, just to really push it back. More rock refinements. And notice too that I tend to really stick with the colors that Lan Lan chose for her piece, just because I don't want to lose too much of the original feeling that she established. Here, I am rotating the canvas just to be able to draw that straight line for the walking stick a little easier. Right, so always remember, instead of trying really hard to draw that one straight line, just rotate that canvas so that you're at a comfortable angle to just basically be able to render a straight line relatively easily. Alright, so really amping up the sunlight now, making it bleed through the mountain just a bit, just for a little extra flare. I want to be careful that I don't overdo it and it becomes a little bit too cheesy. Worked out a little silhouette on the dragon there, and also darken the upper right region of the sky just so your eyes tend to focus around the sun, the figure, and the dragon. That's really the three focal areas that I want the viewer to focus on. What I just did there was I duplicated the layer, cooled down the color temperature a bit, and then erased part of it so that I can reveal the original warmer layer underneath. And then I repeated the same process, but this time I darkened the layer and then erased it back out to the original lighter layer underneath. Refining some of the figures, silhouettes a little bit more so they read a little better, right? I made sure that my foreground figures rim lighting has the brightest value, just so you look there first, basically. All right. Good rule of thumb is always keep your lightest light right next to your darkest darks in terms of values, and the eye will immediately go to that contrasting area. Um, and if you use that by your focal area, it's a nice way to really direct the eyes. Here I'm working out some more details on the cape, just so there's more visual variety in the foreground. And I am tempted to use photo textures to add that quick level of detail and make everything a little tighter. But ultimately, I decided against it just because I really liked the original painted feel that Lan Lan had in her piece at the beginning. So I really didn't want to lose that painterly feel. Right, still working out the lit area on the ground. I think I also changed the shape of the cape a bit because it was causing a tangent with the shadow shape that was casting onto the ground. Right there, I'm turning my picture to grayscale just to check my values, make sure that everything's working value-wise. Sometimes when I work in color, I have a tendency to forget about the value relationship and just focus too much on color. Here, adding some more haze just to really punch out this foreground figure and push back the figures and the creature as well, right? Separate all the different planes happening. Notice too that I don't zoom in too much even at the refinement stage, just because I have a bad tendency really to noodle too much and just work a piece to death if I zoom in too close and start noodling. So when you work at a scale where you see the entire piece, it's really easier to keep the big picture in mind and not get lost in the details, unnecessary details sometimes. And here I think I realized that the mountainside mass was starting to blend in too much with the cast shadow on the ground. So I'm starting to add an intersection, a break in the ground plane to denote where the mountain ends and the ground starts basically. And playing around with some more brushes just to see if I can get that hint or that feel of shrubbery and grass and dirt and rocks and whatnot. Okay, so a little more refining. Right. Checking everything again. Again, playing around with the color temperature, duplicating a layer, cooling down the color temperature, and then erasing back to my warmer areas, which would basically be the foreground areas and the areas that are lit. In the areas that are in shadow, I tend to just keep the color temperature a little bit on the cooler side. And here I decided to add in some light. You know, so the sun cast all the way to the right side of the rocks, just to balance out, you know, all that darkness that's happening on the right. I think it's a little bit too overpowering, so I figure I throw in a little light just to, you know, spice things up a bit. No, nope, looks like I erased that light mass on the bigger rock and just left it closer towards the ground. Here, adding more haze to the background. I still felt that the horizon line was really dark, so I started to add more haze there and just carving it out, basically. Some last minute refinements, and it looks like we're close to wrapping everything up. Checking the values again, you know, a little more haze to push that creature back into the picture plane even more, and playing around with some lighting, you know, make that sunlight even more intense. All right, let's take a look at the original piece by Lon Lon. Some really cool stuff happening there, and yeah, this whole paint over took about a little over an hour or so, I would say. Thanks for watching. See you next time.